Steph, you want to talk about Stargate?
Okay.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Alien Familiar RPG Podcast. I am Clayton.
I'm Jordan.
Kyle Perkins.
I'm Stephonika.
And before we get started, I would like to remind our listeners that you can find show notes and more at alienfamiliar.com. You can email us at alienfamiliarmedia@gmail.com. And we are at Facebook at facebook.com/alienfamiliar. And if you would like to help us out with hosting costs, you can do so at patreon.com/alienfamiliarmedia, where any help you would be able to give us would be greatly appreciated. Today, we have a special guest with us, and we are going to be talking in our continuing series on how to translate settings into role-playing games. We are going to be talking about the Stargate setting. And as we were getting ready to talk about this, we realized that we have somebody who was in the building but was not on the podcast, who is probably one of the biggest Stargate nerds that we know.
Yeah.
And we've invited her on with us.
Oh God, pressure.
Pressure. Has a binder with every single Stargate property ever made on DVD.
Okay.
Is that factual? How many discs is that?
It's a lot.
It's at least 5 per season, and there's like
14 different series or something?
10 and 5 and 2, and there's like 3 or 4 movies.
Well, let's break that down. Stargate, began with the wonderful 1994
directed
Sounds
by Roland
right.
Emmerich.
Hell yeah, movie, starring Kurt Russell
And
James Spader?
James Spader, right? As Dr. Daniel Jackson. And then it spawned a spin-off series, Stargate SG-1, which ran for 10 seasons. Is that right?
Is that the one with MacGyver in it?
Yep.
Thank you.
And James Spader gets replaced by someone who looks and acts a lot like James Spader.
Yeah.
To the point where when I started rewatching Stargate SG-1, after having watched it as a teenager, I had forgotten that it wasn't the same actor in that film. Truly.
Mm-hmm.
And another series that ran concurrent with SG-1.
Yeah, I think it started when SG-1 was still in season 8.
And that was
Atlantis.
Stargate Atlantis.
Yeah. And then after that, we got Stargate Universe for 2 seasons.
Or SGU. SGU, a lot of people call it.
Do you know off the top of your head what years the 3 sequel series started?
The series?
Yeah.
2 series? I think it was 04 to 09 and then 10 to 12.
And the original, the series.
I think the first series was 97 to 07.
Okay.
Yeah. Wasn't there a gap, though, between when it left Showtime and when it started on Sci-Fi?
Oh, there was, I guess. I forgot it started on Showtime.
Yeah, it was a Showtime show, which is why the premiere of SG-1, a lot of nips. A lot of female presenting nipples in that pilot.
I'm pretty sure there was like full frontal in the original.
Oh, there is Bush.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Weird times.
Starbush.
Starbush. Yeah. God. And then Sci-Fi Channel, right, picked it up when it was canceled, or when Showtime quit doing it.
And then we started getting all the spin-offs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Stargate Universe ended, and then there were some made-for-TV movies.
Well, there was Arc of Truth, which ended SG-1 finally. It gave it a proper ending, and then there was Continuum, which was a one-off.
Okay.
Not worth the time to watch it.
Which one's the one with Jason Momoa in it?
Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ronan
Fitting.
Dax? Ronan Drax?
I can't remember his last name.
Ronan Dex? Ronan Dex.
Ronan Dex. Dax is Star Trek, man.
Oh, isn't she? And that's it, right? There was another, wasn't there a miniseries really recently that was garbage, or is that Continuum that I was thinking of?
Oh, maybe there was that one, but I never watched it. Chronicles, if that ever happened. I think it was supposed to follow Cassandra.
Yep.
Catherine or Something like that.
And that did not run very long. That was like a little mini series.
Yeah. I never watched it. Like, I don't know what happened with that.
So what's the idea behind the original Stargate and the original Stargate SG-1 series? What's the core behind it? What type of a story is it telling?
It's mostly a story of just space exploration through the Stargate and exploring other planets. Very much Star Trek, but without spaceships, you know? Exploring other galaxies, other planets.
You can go real
finding
far.
New technologies.
You don't need a car or even a ship.
Or even a ship.
Yeah.
We're talking Stargate. There's Carter, O'Neill, and Daniel and Teal'c.
Watch out for that Gould. So there's a version of, much like the original Star Trek theme, there's a versions of sorts of the Stargate SG-1 theme where the writers put like derpy fucking joke lyrics to it, and it's very funny.
Yeah.
I believe Jerry Goldsmith did the music. Great music.
Yeah, apparently it was like the first thing the writers wrote when they were in the room together. They're just like, here's this weird ass song to go with the music.
But I guess if you haven't seen any of the Stargate stuff we've just mentioned, it is very much like Star Trek without a starship. The Stargate is, or Chapa-I, if you will, in the tongue of the Goa'uld. The Chapa-I. It is a blue swirl that is looks like water put into a round pool, and then you turn the pool up vertically, and it doesn't all run out. And you can walk through it, and it basically creates an Event Horizon wormhole. And there is some, like, you know, in-universe tech about how this all works, but it is a little bit hand-wavy, much like Faster Than Light travel is in a lot of shows. You can only for sure send information and things one way through a Stargate. So if I dial into your planet, I can send stuff to you, but you can't send stuff back through that wormhole to me.
But how do you get back?
You have to dial from your planet to my planet.
What if they don't have a Stargate?
Then you're fucked.
Oh, no.
Then how did they die on to begin with?
You should have taken a spaceship.
Well, we get spaceships eventually, spoiler alert.
Well, it was set in 1994 and 1996, so there were no spaceships. That's one of the things that's awesome about the setting, is that it's contemporary to the real world. So you've got real world tech that you are taking to alien planets.
Yeah.
That was one of the questions I had about the follow-up series. Did they continue along with, you know, whatever present day is the last couple series set in like the early 2000s post 9/11 modern world, or are they all kind of still in the 90s?
It followed the same timeline, just like with our timeline into Stargate.
Okay.
With some tweaks, because they do accept that they've discovered alien technologies and they're starting to basically make it on Earth. So there is some technological progression that's beyond our real world, but it's not heads and shoulders above what we currently have. It's kind of extrapolating a little bit more sci-fi, like in the near future, rather than like in Star Trek, where it's hundreds of years in the future.
And speaking of Star Trek, one big difference, and something that SG-1 is, I think, in my opinion, the shining example of, it is, and this is a genre of book and various things, it is military sci-fi. Even though there is Starfleet, and they are structured in many ways like a military organization, we won't get into Star Trek stuff here. Oh, I almost did. I almost got deep in there. SG-1, and the Stargate movie originally, which, they follow a group of Air Force, United States Air Force officers who form Stargate 1, or SG-1, that is the first team to go through the Stargate and explore all of these wonderful places that the Stargate network connects people to. So that is something unique about Stargate compared to other sci-fi we've talked about. It is military by nature, so there is strictly adhered rank, structure, and protocol. It is also usually about the friction caused between military interest and humanitarian or exploratory interest. Is that pretty accurate, Steph?
Yeah, I think that's why they keep Daniel on the team. Just to explore that a little bit and have those conversations.
when we do these kind of episodes, we usually kind of pick a starting point for someone who wants to game in this series and maybe has never seen it or needs to catch themselves back up. I think that best starting point is the 1994 movie, hands down.
And last time I checked, it was still on Amazon Prime, so
Yeah.
you could watch it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon. If it's not anymore, give us a shout out. I'll mail you Steph's copy that it's currently in my house. But yeah, no, it is absolutely the first place to start with this franchise. It sets up from the point of view of Daniel Jackson, a character that Steph has mentioned, who is a civilian scientist and archaeologist and linguist. And he is kind of like I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens guy. And he believes that a lot of ancient cultures were influenced by aliens, and people laugh him out of the room.
Yeah, he thinks the pyramids were built by aliens.
Yep, specifically the pyramids, right?
Discredits him, yeah.
And he is contacted after getting laughed out of yet another conference, contacted by another researcher who is, I think she's a civilian, but she's working with the Air Force and says as such. Mm-hmm. And she says, hey, you want to work for us and not get thrown out into the fucking street? Or you want to keep being a weirdo laughingstock? And so he joins up with this group of military people who in top secrecy have been trying to get this wormhole generator to work.
And that's one thing about Stargate.
We're not talking about Star Trek, Clayton.
Is that everybody who is brought in on the Stargate program, they're brand new to it because this is the highest level of top secret that this stuff exists. So every new character that they bring onto the show, their first episode is like, what in the hell is going on? Mm-hmm. And if you've got a group who maybe a few players or maybe all of the players have not watched this movies or the series or are not familiar with the material, as long as the game master has been familiar with it, that's all you need because everything else can be picked up really quickly and it's not required that you know any technobabble in order to be able to enjoy this game.
You had mentioned earlier that a lot of the tech, at least in the first several seasons of SG-1 and in the movie, the original movie, a lot of the technology is very much today's or the 1990s technology. The teams go through the gate, whether they're a civilian scientist or a hardened battle veteran who gets pulled into the program and sworn to secrecy, all of them. They go through the gate with normal 90s military uniform, web gear, backpack, rations, emergency kits, guns, military helmets. Not a lot of body armor because this is 94. You weren't seeing like full on, we're occupying a desert country and we have full on plate carrier, though you start to see some of that later. And they walk through this thing carrying all of that, they're wielding MP5s in the early seasons. And
whenever they open a gate to a new world, the first thing they send through is a robot to make sure that it's a breathable atmosphere on the other side. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to go through this gate and arrive somewhere that is caustic and is going to kill you as soon as you take in a deep breath.
Or walk through directly into space.
Yes.
And speaking of the science of the gates and how they figure out where to go and how you might figure out what to make your campaign settings like for a Stargate game, there's a lot of different wackadoo things they do with the Stargates throughout the... just to make sure that's clear, there's a bunch of these things. They're a physical item. The wormhole generator, the Stargate, is a physical ring made out of this imaginary material called Naquita. And there's a bunch of them. We don't know how many of them there are. And who made them?
Supposedly, there's only one per planet.
Well...
the vast majority of the time.
I mean, you don't know who made them yet. That's all I'm going to say, Kyle.
Oh, fine. I see how it is.
What would happen if I would, brick up a Stargate and somebody would dial in and try to jump through there?
Brick up?
Brick up.
Put
cover the opening with bricks.
Like an iris.
It depends what kind of material it's made out of. Because either the
brick.
If it's brick, it's coming through.
What?
I think it has to be a special kind of alloy.
I mean, if it's a You got Stargate A, your entry point. You got Stargate B, your exit point. I'm over here on Stargate B. Kyle's over here on Stargate A.
Right.
Kyle's about to come through, and I decide to play a cool prank and brick up everything on that side of the Stargate, on Stargate B. Kyle jumps through, shooting through the subspace tunnel.
What happens to Kyle?
Kyle, does he explode?
Kyle's just gonna die.
Yeah, this is going to be a little loud.
Yep.
But since you clarified, that's after the gate connection's already been made.
Mhm.
If you Cask of Amontillado me and you brick me up, I'm going to go flying at ridiculous speeds into that wall. I won't feel it because my matter hasn't reconstituted yet. In that way, it's very much it's like a Star Trek transporter. But I will reconstitute right at the event horizon and whoop, smack into the wall and die.
And on the other and on your side, you would definitely hear a.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although if it's made out of brick, though, see, that's we're talking about the iris, like the what's it called, the event horizon, that swirl that comes out
Right.
as soon as it dials in, would suck in and break away all the bricks.
Right,
and
right.
Then you'd have the event horizon, and then you'd walk through.
So if you bricked it up and then said, all right, buddy, come on over, and then I dialed your gate, this whoosh of water, it's not water, it always looks like water in the show, but this whoosh of fantasy material, blasts, how far out you think?
I think it's probably a good 20 feet, I feel like.
20 feet blasts out of the Stargate and literally vaporizes anything it touches. So, also, if you're waiting for your buddy to come over, don't stand right in front of your Stargate because it will just incinerate you. But it would also blast through your brick. It would blast through solid rock. A common tactic for people who don't want friends to come over, like they're, really feeling overloaded, is to just bury your Stargate. And when someone tries to dial, it would blast down or up, either way, and it would vaporize the dirt and the stone there, and the event horizon would form potentially. But then you come through
and you're trapped.
Yeah, you're stuck in a cave and you're dead.
And you have no way to get home unless that DHD is right there, which it's probably not.
What is
dialing home device?
Yeah.
That's the control on the other side of okay. Now, it takes some time to go from point A to point B, right? It's not like instantaneous.
It's pretty much. It's the equivalent of instantaneous. You've got to step through, and then the person who is traveling, they see all sorts of, Kubrick-esque
Yeah, I
shit.
remember the movie. There's a tunnel they're flying down for a while, right?
They keep that effect for the show, and in the early seasons they show it for a lot of time, but then they gradually start to trim it.
Right, you've seen that already. Well, what I was wondering is what happens if somebody detonates a nuke inside the wormhole tunnel,
Inside the wormhole?
Yeah, does anybody ever do that?
Time pretty much stops for things in the wormhole, right?
It would go off as soon as they came out the other side.
Okay.
But not inside.
Yeah. And the Stargate material is so tough that it will stand up to a nuclear blast. You won't hurt the Stargate. I think the only thing that can destroy a Stargate is to throw it into a sun. And even then it actually stays connected in the sun for a little while.
That'd be a great thing to send your enemies into. Yeah. That'd be awesome. So what happens if you've got your Stargate open there? What happens if I just stick my arm through? And then I'm you know what? The hell with this. And try to pull it out. Am I going to get sucked in? Am I stuck there with only one way to proceed? How's that work?
I think there's technically a gentle pull. Once you put an appendage in there, it'll slowly start to pull you in, but you can pull yourself back out. You won't dematerialize and get to the other side until the entire sequence is complete.
So my arm is not sticking out the other side if I stick. No. Okay.
They never really say this in the show, but they show it. The complete object pretty much needs to be in the event horizon, through the event horizon. Okay. What other shit can you send through a Stargate though? They handle that in the show a lot. Is other things that can be sent through.
I mean, spaceships.
Yeah, later.
So there's gigantic fucking Stargates then? You're not limited to the
fighters.
20 foot wide,
they're
whatever
like
it is?
little shuttle, like,
Oh,
type
okay.
things.
Radio signals
Oh, okay.
can go
I
through.
didn't know what you were trying to get at there. Like,
I'm just trying to get you to share
okay.
that knowledge that's in there. It's in there.
Can radio signals go both ways?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's like the only thing is they state that like low level like EM radiation, which would include radio waves,
Mm-hmm.
can travel both ways through a Stargate. And they actually do some wackadoo shit where some enemies of humans will take advantage of that low level EM going through and use it for nefarious purposes. But that doesn't happen for many seasons, but that allows them to communicate with their soldiers on a planet by opening up a Stargate, and just standard radios will work. You would need potentially a relay on the other planet depending on how far your team is from the gate, but radio works fine. They launch a lot of drones. You mentioned Steph, starships, but they launch a lot of standard, normal, present day technology military drones through, and they'll do aerial scope outs of planets.
So who are the big movers and shakers in this setting? What's the name of the alien race that's like Egyptian god guys? And then there's other ones, right? Goa'uld.
Yes. And then later on you have the Ori, and then in Atlantis, the Wraith. I think those are the top baddies.
Can we start with the Egyptian guys? What's their story?
So they're basically these little parasitic type creatures that take human hosts and able to survive. And so they don't do this willingly though. So they use that to, they created it's been a minute, guys. Oh my god. It just like takes me back to like, how did this all start? Because they were just these parasites. So how did they even like start this off without their lackeys and whatnot? But essentially, they take human hosts and enslave the races to take over the galaxy, kind of thing. You know, the usual evil bad and all that. And so, in human culture, they appropriated like the Egyptian gods and whatnot to kind of like seed their way into the culture sneakily, kind of thing.
And they built the Stargates?
No.
No.
Which is something they really don't like hearing. If you tell a Goa'uld, when they say, bow before your god, and you're like, fuck you, you're not a god, you're a really nasty looking snake that's been inside of a human for a long time, making it do your bidding, and also the Stargates, and also the spaceships that you take full advantage of and fly around in, and the Goa'uld have nasty, like, Star Destroyer type spaceships. And you're like, yeah, you guys fucking stole that technology. You didn't make that. They get really mad. They're very proud, arrogant pieces of shit, pretty much typically. Like, no, that's not true. I was going to say the Goa'uld are a bit of a monoculture, but they're not. But they are universally, arrogant fucks. Universally, hands down. Never met a good Goa'uld.
This sounds like really evil symbiotes from, DS9. You were talking about Dax earlier. It sounds exactly like that.
I was just thinking about, it's funny we mentioned Dax on this podcast because they are like a symbiote from Star Trek or other things like, what do you think, Steph? Symbiotes or parasites?
I mean, parasite just kind of gives me the notion that they're there for nefarious purposes, and symbiote sounds like it's symbiotic and it's mutually beneficial, so I would call the Goa'uld parasites and the Trill symbiotes.
Does the mortal body that the Goa'uld is inside, is it damaged or is it enhanced by the presence of the Goa'uld?
Actually enhanced, yeah. So they live longer, they're stronger, faster. So, I mean, it's beneficial, but it's technically you're being enslaved inside your own body. You don't have willpower anymore.
Is the original person aware of what's going on when the Goa'uld is doing stuff?
Yes and no. You know, weaker will, not so much. But if you got Jedi powers...
That is one of the, I have no mouth and I must scream like truly horrific things about the show is that oftentimes when your life span is enhanced greatly being under the control of a Goa'uld parasite, but when a host is and there are very difficult to find ways of removing a Goa'uld from a host successfully. It's really rare and really hard to do. But almost universally, every time I've seen it happen in the show, the host is like, "Oh, cool. Thanks for doing that. Now fucking kill me." Because I've been watching acts of absolute horrific monstrosity as I ride around passenger in my own body for 200 years. Please kill me. Thank you. But sometimes they're like, yeah, I was blacked out. Like I remember bits and pieces. It was all terrible. It depends. And yeah, so like if you have a very strong will, there are moments where characters who are enslaved by the Goa'uld, like when the Goa'uld is, when the body has been wounded and the Goa'uld is focusing on healing up the wounds, sometimes a strong-willed person can break through and like do like a moment's worth of something. It's difficult and rare though.
If you were running it, would you let the Goa'uld be a player race, yay or nay?
If it was an evil campaign.
They're 100% evil. Like every single one of them's evil.
Yep.
Okay.
No, there's the Tok'ra.
But Tok'ra aren't Goa'uld.
Am I remembering it wrong then?
No, no. That's just what the Tok'ra say.
Oh, okay.
Like, don't call us Goa'uld.
They've rebranded.
So yeah, there's the Tok'ra. They're they broke away from the Goa'uld and they're like rebels trying to unseat the gods.
That's a fucking perfect player character race right there.
Yeah, it'd be sick to be a Tok'ra in a game. Tok'ra are the same species as the Goa'uld, though they're loath to admit it.
Do they take volunteers?
They only take willing hosts.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Willing, air quotes.
The Tok'ra and their host are able to, at the will of either symbiote or human host, either one can be like, hey, hold on for a second, let me talk, and then you can talk openly to the host, and then they'll like close their eyes, and then you can talk openly to the symbiote living within them. So in that regard, it's not quite like Trill. They do have how much memory is shared between in the Tok'ra, in the case of the Tok'ra?
I think it's like a complete no.
You know what the symbiote knows, and they know what you know.
As far as I remember.
So yeah, that's cool. That would be a great player race for people wanting to run a not evil campaign. I won't say a good campaign because even the Tok'ra have their foibles. But if you wanted to run an evil campaign, it really that is something black and white about the show. All Goa'uld who identify as Goa'uld are evil, hands down, every time. And having the players be a bunch of quibbling system lords, which is what the Goa'uld call themselves, system lord of this many systems. And each player could be a system lord. And the Goa'uld only hesitantly, that's also one of their big weaknesses. The Goa'uld are so arrogant they rarely ever work together, and so they're a bit fragmented. Confederations at best. And so you could have a group of players who are system lords who are barely getting along, always trying to... It's like a vampire campaign, actually, in that regard.
I think it'd be even worse than vampire because you have a group of these people who are literally lords of worlds and they are complete psychopaths.
God, that sounds fucking awesome.
And they have to work together for something.
Sounds fun as hell. So, Steph, you mentioned two other, quote, evil, or at least antagonist races. I know a little bit about the Wraith. I've seen a little bit of Atlantis, but you said the Ori? Ori? I don't know what that is. What is that?
They're a more religious type of enemy in the show. So, spoiler alert.
For a show that has ended how many years ago? For a show series.
Once the Goa'uld isn't like so much the top threat anymore, of course, naturally in comes a new threat, and they're called the Ori. And it's been longer since I've watched those seasons. It's like 9 and 10, I think. So there's some sort of like controlling power to them, dealing with some kind of like fire god, I think. And so the Ori priests, like, go out and they try to, basically bring you into the religion, and the more people who pray to this fire god, the stronger it gets, and
And that actually has a real effect? Like, if they enslave a world and make the entire world pray to their god, the god actually gets stronger somehow?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know shit about that. I've never watched those later seasons of SG-1.
It's interesting, yeah.
Who's the guy with the gold disc on his head?
You mean Teal'c?
Sure.
The bad guy, or... Because Teal'c, I don't think, has a gold one.
Yeah, he does.
He's silver.
No, he's got a gold
Silver.
thing. No, it's gold.
Oh, the thing on the forehead?
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about, like, the bold cap thing.
No.
So that's silver.
No, like
What you're talking about,
forehead
pompous.
piece. What is that thing?
It's how they brand the different sects. Like, each system lord has a different brand that they put on their soldiers' heads.
Oh, that dude is a Gould?
He is a Jaffa.
Jaffa Kree!
Alright, what's that?
So if I were a Jaffa, I would look to you and I would say, Jordan Fannin, do you still smoke those sticks of death?
Nope.
Ah, very good. And that's the most emotion I would show. So they are branded on their foreheads by the symbol of their system lord god. Teal'c's brand is actually poured in molten gold, poured into grooves carved into his forehead, because he is the first prime of Apophis, was the fake god Gould who he fought for as his first prime, as his military commander. And each Gould has a lot of Jaffa. Like,
yeah. They're basically just their soldiers, their standing army. So... And I can't remember the difference between, like, the gold that, like, their eyes glow when they're, like, the gods. But, like, the Jaffa, like, they don't do that. I can't remember the difference between the two.
The Jaffa have a baby Gould, in, much like a kangaroo, a little joey pouch in their tum-tum. So the Gould, these parasitic snakes, they spawn, asexually. There's a Gould queen.
Oh, that's right.
That does not need to be, what's the word?
Inseminated?
Inseminated works. Germinated. Yeah, they don't need males. The Gould queen just spawns, and they're actually, they're actually clones of itself. They are, all Gould are, spawned from a particular queen, are identical clones of that queen. Their personalities can differ, though they do retain the memories of the queen.
So there's just a couple of original queens?
There's several, but not a lot. And that's why the Tok'ra exists, spoiler alert. Their queen decided, fuck this, and she went good. Uh-huh. And every Tok'ra that she spawns, which I won't say any more about that, are good like her because they possess her memories. But they do have differing individual personalities. And they don't, once they're birthed, once they mature, they're not a hive mind like the Borg. They just all have ancestral clear memories of their brood mother.
Gotcha.
Why the hell did we start talking? Jaffa, right.
Yeah.
So the Jaffa, yeah, they're like their standing army. They are in their tum-tums carrying around a little baby Gould that is not mature yet, and the Jaffa have superhuman strength and well, I mean, not like ridiculously strong, but like, you know, picture the strongest person you ever met and multiply it times like 3. And
they're just all Jason Momoa.
Yeah. They also have a very long life and very rapid healing. But the Gould in their little tum-tum pouch doesn't no, it's great, I love it. Doesn't have any will, any enforced will over its host. It is a child, it is dormant in their tum-tum. Other thing about the Jaffa and all these different system lords, it's not just Egyptian gods, right?
I think it was.
There's the Norse
what are you
dudes.
Thinking of?
There's like Thor or no, I'm an idiot.
They're not
Gould.
Gould.
Never
That's
mind.
the Asgard.
But there are because there's the Chinese Gould, and he took on Chinese, like, legendary mythical figures.
Oh, yeah.
What about the Mayans? Do they get any love?
No. I
They,
don't think so.
every now and again, they show, because it's so rare, it's so exceedingly rare, they show these meetings of system lords who get together and they're all fucking, they got their slaves with them and they're looking at each other like they're about to get backstabbed because they probably are.
Mm-hmm.
And those are really cool scenes because they're all wearing different cultures, from Earth, mostly regalia.
Is there magic in Stargate, or is it just technology so advanced it may as well be?
Just technology. Advances in technology. There's
Psychic
no
powers?
actual magic.
Any psychic powers?
Psychic powers to the extent of its biologic advancement.
Okay.
Naquita, the fictional material the Stargates are made out of, it's what the Goa'uld mine it and they hoard it. They use it to power their starships. It makes up the Stargates. They don't know how to make more Stargates, but Naquita is in the blood of all of these system lord powerful Goa'uld because of for how long they've been in power and how many times they've been around equipment that is powered by Naquita, and they've been to the mines and all that shit. It's like kind of like Spice in Dune.
That's what I was thinking.
And that Naquita in the blood of a Goa'uld or Tok'ra gives them control, and it is sci-fi stuff, but it looks like magic. It gives them control over these psionic glove things.
Little hand things, yeah.
And they can push, they can force push, they can burn you, they can heal you. And
it's a fucking weirding way.
But it's all done through a device and a mental connection to it, so it's not technically magic.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on who you ask.
I know, clearly.
So, if you were to play in this setting, you were a player, would you want to play an established character, or would you want to make new characters? I personally would not want to play an established character. I say that pretty much every time, but I want to be one of those new people who has just joined the Stargate program. I'm off on, I'm assigned to Stargate 30, and we're literally the scrubs of Stargate because we are the lowest ranked. We are the
other guys
sent off to do the shit missions. That's how I would want to play in a Stargate game.
Same.
I feel like that would be the most fun, because, like, it's definitely open to creating your own four-man team, too. Because that's the format of the show, is a bunch of four-man teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, SG teams are always 4 members at their core, and that's also perfect party size for most RPG systems.
Yep. Did any of you guys ever play the Stargate SG-1 role-playing game that came out in, like, the early 2000s?
What? No.
Yeah. Do you remember what system it used or who published
Cortex?
I don't remember what the system was. I was just reading, though, that there's a new one that is coming out that's going to be released at Gen Con. It's based off 5th edition D&D, and it's Wyvern Games, I guess, is putting it out. They've had like a closed beta for a couple months.
Hey, if you're looking for beta testers, get me in on that. If somehow someone listening to this somehow gets in touch with Wyvern Games. To answer your question, Jordan, this is one of the few settings where I would actually happily play an established character. So in Star Trek, I want to be a member of Starfleet so badly that I do not want to play someone that's already established with a personality and a story. I want to forge my own path. In, like, Star Wars, those characters are so well known and larger than life and, like, mythical. Like, I don't want to play fucking Luke Skywalker. I don't want to play Obi-Wan Kenobi. In Stargate, amongst the fans, obviously these characters are larger than life. You know, the initial 4 of SG-1, I think especially. But in this setting, those characters are, because there's so many episodes of them doing so many different types of tasks and because I, Kyle Perkins, don't really want to join the Air Force and go, like, you know, be on an SG team. At least not, I mean, I would, but not as much as I want to, like, join Starfleet. I think it'd be actually really fun to pull from my experience watching most of, but not all of SG-1 and go through someone's campaign and imagine, all right, what would Major Carter do here? I've watched, you know, a shit ton of this show. I can act and kind of think like her. And in that particular regard, it would be a fun challenge to roleplay that character. I don't know if that seems like a specific thing, but that's just the way I feel, man.
Yeah, but then someone would have to roleplay Teal'c.
Do you think that would not be fun?
I think it would become immensely boring after a certain amount of time of just doing the same thing over and over ad nauseum.
But think about the amount of head tilts and eyebrow raises and slight smiles you could give.
How's that different than playing a Vulcan?
Fair point.
Yeah.
I don't like playing Vulcans either.
I can't really give any logical reasons as to why, for some reason, even though I've watched a lot of other properties, why, for some reason, Stargate, I would actually play an established character. Don't know why. I'm not sure what's different about this show that causes me to find that actually fun and interesting instead of just, like, boring and, like, being put in a box. I don't know.
What about you, Steph? Original character or canon character?
No, I would want to do an original character, yeah.
But you wouldn't want to do an original character?
I would want to.
Oh.
If I had to pick an established character, though, have you gotten the seasons with McKay?
Fuck that guy. Fuck McKay.
If you're
He's a piece
Sam,
of shit.
If you're Sam, I'm playing Rodney.
Man, that guy sucks. That guy's a creeper.
Only an SG-1.
He gets better.
So, I just want to point out, we're trying to figure out who made the Stargate SG-1 role-playing game. It was a D20 system game published by Alderac Games, based on Spycraft, but it was a D20 game. So it basically used the same rules as 3rd edition D&D.
One of the D20 modern lineup. Yeah,
cool.
Makes sense.
While we're on that track, D20 modern you could wonderfully and easily adapt Stargate, I think, into. What other systems you guys think you could pretty easily adapt into this universe?
I'm not familiar enough with what the tone of the shows are like. Like, is it, like a very lethal, like military realism kind of show, or is it more like pulpy, you know, adventure of the week action kind of stuff? Like,
it's pulpy adventure of the week, but it loves its gun and gadget porn.
Mm-hmm. But it's not like, you know,
it doesn't take itself too seriously.
People don't die very often. It's like a big deal.
There are satire episodes that are built in the show and are canon. So it doesn't take itself too seriously.
Like the Cops episode of X-Files. There's stuff like that.
Okay.
You could do a dark, lethal, serious game in the universe. I think the universe is interesting and flexible enough to allow that. But the typical vibe is like, guns are awesome. Mowing down Jaffa is awesome. Rescuing people from slavery is awesome. Imparting a United States system of, ethics and values is awesome.
Are they spreading democracy around the galaxy?
Yeah, they are, dude.
Early 2000s Bush era patriotism.
God, I was hoping you guys are going to say that.
But, you know, it is still a, like, it's usually good to study and understand kind of sci-fi show, but not to the same degree Star Trek is.
Would it feel out of place if somebody were running this using, like, the World of Darkness system versus, like, you know, D20 modern, bag of hit points, you know, high level antics, whatever? Like,
you can make that work. World of Darkness is a system that has like sanity kind of trackers, and there's a lot of things you can do to, like, mess with someone's psyche or, like, have your own psyche messed with. And I was just thinking that the Gould sarcophagi, huh? Are a piece of alien tech that heals even from death. And like, there's a limit. Like, I think like a couple of days, you're dead. They put you in this thing and it brings you back. But the more you are in it, the more twisted you become. And it's, like basically like, an infiltration team going to take out a high value Goa'uld target, have them, forced to, a lot of Tok'ra will go undercover and pretend to be lower level Goa'uld. And so like have them infiltrate and, have to, put up with all kinds of horrific things the Goa'uld are doing in order to get their intel or to blow up the facility. And I think if you did something like that, you could pretty well adapt World of Darkness to it.
This totally sounds like some elder vampire, like Night's Black Agents kind of stuff. Like,
I think that's a good analogy.
Yeah.
I feel like if you went dark with it like that, and I don't know mechanics of like these games very well.
What do you mean by
But
these games?
These types of games.
People like you all play.
But the Wraith from Atlantis sound like they would be more interesting in that kind of format because they can make you see things and they literally suck the life out of you with their hand. They're much more like bio-organic. It's creepier than just the Goa'uld.
I forgot we hadn't talked about them yet. The Wraith are like the Reavers from Firefly, but less insane. They're still crazy as fuck, but they're, they, like a plague of locusts, like a swarm, they sweep through systems, right? And like just literally they touch you and through some hand wavy process, they suck the life force out of you and like you look like a fucking corpse.
It's not their fault that you're their, source of food.
Oh yeah, sure. They're like sharks.
They seem evil because they suck the life out of you.
Well, that sounds evil, yeah.
And shit. I mean, there's also plenty of room for, and this happens a lot in SG-1. You go to a planet, bunch of humans. The Goa'uld spread humans throughout the galaxy, by the way. So that's fun.
That was good.
Because they would capture slaves and bring them all across the galaxy.
No, that was better.
So you encounter humans a lot. But anyway, you go to a planet, humans are there. They've got some, technology that's like better than yours. They seem to be real friendly.
That was one of my questions. Are we're not the most advanced of the human gardens that the Goa'uld have spread? There's like people how far ahead of us?
Well, I think humans originally came from Earth in the lore, but slaves were taken from Earth populations and spread out, and those populations progressed technologically at different rates.
Yeah, some of them broke free, and some of them have Federation Star Trek level technology. But a lot of times you'll show up and you'll strike up a deal with these humans, and they're like, "Oh yeah, man, it's really good to hear from you. Like, been a while." Then, thousands of years. And then you'll realize that they're literal fucking Nazis, or or you'll realize that they are, playing the long con, and they're gonna, like, seed your population with, a virus that makes your species basically sterile, and then just wait you out, and then take your shit.
I might be alright with
that. So there's a lot of, twisted kind of schemes you could hatch up for a dark Stargate game.
We're getting kind of long. We're at about 55 minutes.
I'm getting pretty long just thinking about Stargate. I love this series.
Oh God.
Are there any other points that anyone wants to bring up? Or otherwise, we'll switch into talking about geek things, which is the things that are going on either in our lives or the media that we're consuming that we want to let other people know about. I've got a couple. So my geek things is first of them is I'm sure there are more gyms like this across the country, but Columbus has a place called Ninja City, and this is a gym where you can go and it's set up like a Ninja Warrior obstacle course, and you can go and you can run this course as your exercise. You can pay by the hour, or you can pay a weekly or monthly subscription rate in order to just go and try out your skills at being a Ninja Warrior, or try to train for the Ninja Warrior, or just do something fun to get fit. It's in Ninja City in Columbus, Ohio is the one that I became aware of. The other geek thing that I've got is a YouTube series called by Arvin Ash. It is complex questions explained simply in about 10 minutes. And it focuses on science, technology, money, and other topics to explain very complex things.
I don't know if I have anything either. Man, watch out for deer. That's all I got. I just hit 2 of them in my little 2-door Chevy Cobalt and totaled the poor thing.
2 at once.
Yeah, double kill. A line of 5 of them crossed the road, and fucking as soon as they entered my headlight range and saw me, they just stopped, blocking both lanes, just fucking staring at me. And I plowed into 2 of them. Airbags didn't deploy somehow, but fucking rest in peace, little buddy. I have 121,000 miles with you. Done all your oil changes ever since you were just a little guy. Oh.
What was his name? Did you name it?
You know, it's just the Cobalt.
That's why it died.
I had some friends that called it the Kobold way back, which is really funny.
I named my car the Nomad. I mean, that's geeky because that's after Mass Effect. There you go. There's my geeky thing. I name my cars out of things from Mass Effect. My first one was Eva. Not from WALL-E, but from a robot in Mass Effect. And now I have the Nomad because I wrecked the first one in LA. That was great.
I guess my geek thing is the other day I watched the original The Crazies, directed by George Romero, 1973. Seemed like relevant considering the current situation. I forgot how gross that movie gets, Clayton. And not in the way that you might think.
Yep.
I'd still recommend it to anybody, though. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on that people were allowed to make those types of movies in the 70s.
It was pre-Reagan Revolution. I honestly think prior to the whole moral majority, like, Bible Crusader thing, like, it was chill.
I mean, pre-Satanic Panic, which affected our wonderful hobby here drastically. Steph, you're a very creative individual. You're always making cool shit. Is there anything you'd like to plug or announce? Any of the many irons I know you have in the fire?
Well, the first thing coming up, I started making jewelry out of antler tips that I got after I finished this one film called Wrong Turn.
Hey, I know where a fucking dead deer is in the ditch by Lancaster.
I was about to say, you want some antler tips?
But yeah, I had a vendor booth at a Whorehound this coming weekend, which is now, postponed because of things happening. But now I hear it's rescheduled for Memorial Day weekend, so I'll be at Whorehound Memorial Day weekend selling some antlers.
I just want to enunciate more clearly. Horror hound.
I had a question about that myself.
Horror.
No, now
the horror.
Like terror.
Whorehound are the little candies I like to carry around in my pockets. Somebody comes up to me, I'm like, "Hey, fella, do you like a whorehound candy?"
All right, guys, what do you say we stop this bullshit and start rolling some dice?
That was earbuds. That was Apple earbuds. That sounded really convincing.
This has been a production of Alien Familiar Media. You can find past episodes and more at alienfamiliar.com. You can email us at alienfamiliarmedia@gmail.com. This production is protected under a Creative Commons non-commercial attribution, no derivatives license. Music for this episode is Suburban Outlaw by Forget the Whale and can be found at freemusicarchive.org.